Have you ever felt like totally paralyzed by just a simple everyday annoyance?
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
something incredibly mundane, but deeply, deeply infuriating. Picture this. You're in a meeting, right?
Okay, setting the scene.
Yeah, and you present this idea you've been grinding on all week,
Hmm.
and a coworker just casually repeats it 5 minutes later and totally takes all the credit.
Yes, it's a very specific type of paralysis.
Right.
It's like this freeze response triggered by sheer social audacity. Your
Yeah.
brain just halts.
You just sit there, like your brain is buffering, trying to figure out how to respond without looking like the petty, crazy one in the room.
Exactly, because if you speak up, you look defensive.
Exactly. But then on the flip side of that exact same coin, have you ever found yourself lying awake at like 2 a.m.,
Yeah.
completely paralyzed by massive existential dread?
The big questions.
Right. What is the meaning of life? What is the fundamental nature of the universe?
It's funny, we usually treat those as two entirely separate categories.
Yeah, completely different boxes.
The micro frustrations of the group chat versus the macro anxieties of human existence.
Hmm.
And we think they need entirely different toolkits to solve.
But what if they aren't different? What if they're actually the exact same problem?
That is the big premise today.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the mind of this fascinating thinker, a modern strategist and philosopher known simply as Warcrit, or War.
Just war, yeah.
And his core argument is that surviving a lazy coworker and understanding the fundamental laws of existence are actually the exact same skill.
Which requires a massive perspective shift, I mean, when you really look at it.
Totally.
Because war operates on this very distinct spectrum. On one end, he offers this raw, street-smart advice on navigating toxic friends and workplace drama.
Very practical stuff.
Super practical. But then he scales that up into this high-tech blueprint for a completely decentralized, AI-managed society.
Which is wild.
And finally, he connects all of this to one of the most ancient, absolute frameworks of reality in Buddhist philosophy, the Mahapatthana.
It's such a wild trajectory, and we're going to trace the line between those extremes.
Right.
We want to figure out how a brutally pragmatic approach to, like, a deadbeat friend connects to the fundamental laws of cause and effect.
Because it does connect.
It really does. But, before we can understand the underlying code of the cosmos, we kind of have to figure out how to survive the group chat first.
A necessary first step for any modern enlightenment, honestly.
Right.
If you can't navigate a passive-aggressive email, you probably aren't ready for ultimate reality.
So true. So let's start with Wer's particular brand of what I'd call street smart stoicism.
I like that term.
Reading through his responses to these classic social dilemmas, his voice really stands out. It's this weird blend of blunt realism, tactical genius, and surprisingly really deep empathy.
He just completely ignores the emotional games we usually get trapped in.
Yeah.
He ignores the manipulation and cuts straight through to the raw mechanics of the interaction. He strips away that social conditioning that makes us feel obligated to be polite to people who are actively disrespecting us.
I want to run a hypothetical by you that Wer discusses. The classic deadbeat friend scenario.
Oh boy.
Right. So a friend comes to you, crying poverty, saying they're in desperate need. You loan them a chunk of money
Because you're a good friend.
because you're a good friend. But then 3 months go by, they ignore your texts. But you open Instagram and boom, there they are,
Living it up.
posting videos, eating this incredibly expensive omakase dinner, and taking a luxury road trip.
The visceral anger that induces is just universal.
It makes my blood boil just thinking about it.
Right. And the traditional response is either silent, seething resentment, where you just complain to your partner about it for weeks,
Which I've definitely done.
or a messy, emotionally charged text confrontation that ends the friendship, and you still never see a dime of that money.
Exactly. But Wer's solution is entirely different. He says, look, don't start a fight. Don't send a long, angry paragraph.
No paragraphs.
Just go to that picture of them eating the expensive sushi, hit the like button, and leave a public comment that says, seeing my friend comfortable makes me comfortable.
It is a psychological checkmate.
Is it, though?
Oh, absolutely. Work is taking the friend's desire for social validation, which is, the whole reason they posted the photo in the first place, and weaponizing it against their debt.
Okay, but let me push back on that for a second. Doesn't that just make you look incredibly passive-aggressive? Like, if I saw someone leave that comment, I'd cringe a little bit.
Well, it is passive-aggressive, but it's strategically so. You have
Yeah.
to look at the power dynamic there.
Okay, how so?
The friend is relying on your adherence to the social contract, the
Yeah.
rule that says, we don't air dirty laundry public. They use that to get away with literal theft.
Oh, right, because they know you won't make a scene.
Exactly. Work's saying if they broke the financial contract, you are no longer bound by the social one.
Wow.
You aren't attacking them. You are playing the role of the incredibly supportive, generous friend, but doing it in a way that aggressively highlights their hypocrisy.
It forces them to confront their own absurdity, because anyone who knows the context will see exactly what that comment means.
And most importantly, the friend knows exactly what it means.
Right. The panic they must feel seeing that notification.
And Warb applies this exact same logic to power dynamics in the workplace, too. Consider the scenario of the boss who texts you at 11 p.m. on a Saturday.
Oh, I hate this one. The non-urgent weekend text.
It's the worst.
The boss writes a massive list of tasks and tacks on, oh, I know it's the weekend, I don't want to bother you, but just take a look at this for Monday morning.
It's a total trap.
Such a trap. Because if you reply, you've ruined your weekend and established that you're always on call.
Yep.
But if you don't reply, you spend all of Sunday stressing about it anyway.
It's a boundary violation disguised as casual communication, really. The boss is outsourcing their own anxiety onto you.
War's primary solution to this is so bold, I literally gasped when I read it.
It's pretty extreme.
He says, the moment that text comes in at 11 p.m., you immediately initiate a video call with the boss.
Instantly.
You answer the video call, you act overly cheerful, you pan the camera around to show your friends at the party or the bar, and you say, hey, boss, we were just hanging out, but let's all look at this for you right now. Everyone, come look at the boss's project.
You escalate the intrusion. It is the absolute destruction of the boss's plausible deniability.
Wait, hold on, though. If I do that, I am fired on Monday morning.
Maybe.
I am 100% packing up my desk. Is this a real suggestion from War or just a fantasy response to make us feel better?
I mean, it's a pressure test of the system.
Yeah.
Think about it. The boss was relying on the asynchronous nature of a text message to avoid feeling like they were interrupting your life.
Right, they just want to send it and forget it.
Exactly. They get to check it off their to-do list while you absorb all the stress. By pulling them into a live video feed of your Saturday night, Warwers forces the boss to experience the exact level of intrusion they just committed.
They have to see the party they're ruining.
Right. Will you get fired? Maybe. But War's point is that you have to break the unspoken rule that allows the abuse to happen in the first place.
It's like War is a social hacker. You know how a computer hacker finds a bug in the code and exploits it?
Yeah, exactly.
War finds the bugs in our social contracts, the fake politeness, the assumed power dynamics, and he exploits them to force the system to reset.
He really does.
But thankfully, he does offer a slightly less nuclear alternative for the 11 p.m. text.
A bit more practical for most people.
Yeah, he says just put no work outside hours on your profile status and completely ignore it.
Which is the stoic part of this street-smart stoicism.
Yeah.
You only control your own boundaries.
Right.
You can't control a boss's impulse to text, but you have absolute control over your availability.
He is a master at calling bluffs. Like, we have another scenario. The friend who is a chronic freeloader.
Oh, every group has one.
Right. You go out to eat with the same group, and every single time the bill arrives, this one guy suddenly passes pockets and says, oh man, I forgot my wallet, or wow, my banking app just crashed. Can someone cover me? I'll transfer it later.
And the group usually enables this.
Always.
The friction of calling it out feels more painful in the moment than just paying the extra $20. It's the path of least resistance.
It's like in poker, when someone keeps going all in without looking at their cards, and everyone just keeps folding because they don't want to deal with the confrontation.
Perfect analogy.
But Word doesn't fold. His solution is to call it out publicly, but playfully. When the guy says his app is down, Word says you immediately respond loudly to the whole table. Oh man, really? Because you haven't paid me for the last time either.
Just put it right out there.
Right out there. And then you turn to the waiter and say, hey, let's keep the menus, let's keep ordering. He says he's treating us all as soon as his app comes back online.
He is taking the person's excuse and following it to its extreme logical conclusion.
That's brilliant.
If your app is just temporarily down, then great. We will sit here and feast until it reboots, and you can cover the tab as a gesture of goodwill. It completely traps the freeloader in their own lie.
And he does the same thing with the topic coworker we talked about earlier, the one who ruins a major project. But when the boss calls an emergency meeting, this coworker jumps in first and says, yeah, I think our team really miscommunicated on this, so the work came out poorly.
They try to spread the blame across the whole team.
Exactly.
The instinct there is to get defensive, to say, no, it wasn't us, it was him, which usually just makes you look petty, defensive, and equally involved in the mess.
War's tactic is immediate isolation. You don't get defensive. You look at the coworker with genuine confusion and ask, wait, how did it break? What exactly did you do? Why don't the rest of us know anything about this?
That is surgically precise language.
It really is.
By asking, what did you do?
Mm.
You are rhetorically severing them from the team narrative they just tried to build.
You're cutting the rope.
You're forcing the spotlight entirely onto their specific actions without sounding angry or defensive. You just sound like someone trying to solve a mystery that only one person has the answer to.
But, if you only look at these scenarios, you might walk away thinking War is just a highly effective troll who enjoys making people sweat.
I could see why people might think that.
But his philosophy isn't just about weaponizing awkwardness. When you keep reading, there's a deep, unexpected empathy in how he views human struggle.
Because he applies that exact same zero BS lens to how we treat ourselves.
Right.
And when you strip away the lies we tell ourselves about our own failures, it often reveals a profound level of compassion.
Let's look at the scenario of the friend who failed. This friend spent 6 solid months dedicating every waking hour to studying for a massive exam or maybe preparing a huge business pitch.
Giving it everything.
Everything. And they fail completely. They're crushed, telling you, I wasted 6 months for nothing. I'm completely worthless. I can't do anything right.
Society's usual comfort is platitudes. Oh, you'll get it next time, or everything happens for a reason.
Which honestly doesn't help at all.
It doesn't actually address the person's feeling of worthlessness. It just papers over it.
War's response is entirely different. He argues that they aren't worthless at all and the time wasn't wasted.
How so?
He says the very fact that they were able to dedicate themselves so fully with such intense focus for 6 straight months is a massive success. The outcome of the test failed, but the person successfully proved their own capacity for dedication. He says, the one thing you accomplished is the intention.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, War is separating the action from the outcome.
Okay, break that down.
In his view, you only have control over your effort, your focus, your intention. If you executed those perfectly, you succeeded in the only arena that actually belongs to you, regardless of external validation.
Wow.
It is textbook stoicism applied to modern burnout.
He does the same thing with grief, actually. Someone loses a pet they've had for 10 years. The owner is spiraling into guilt, saying, if only I had walked him more, if only I noticed he was sick earlier, it's my fault.
Guilt is a fascinating emotion because it's often the mind's way of trying to find control in a situation where you are ultimately powerless.
Because if it's your fault, you could have changed it.
Exactly. If it's your fault, it means you could have stopped it. It's easier to feel guilty than to accept that a living thing just died and you had no say in the matter.
And War gently strips that illusion of control away. He reminds them that nobody wakes up trying to do a bad job at living. He says, everyone tries their best in their daily life. You did your best every day.
That's really powerful.
He frames the pain not as a punishment for failure, but as proof of value. The immense pain you feel right now is just the bill coming due for 10 years of understanding how valuable that time was.
He forces people to look at the raw reality of their choices and their circumstances, stripped of all the narrative baggage we weigh ourselves down with.
Yeah.
Whether you're dealing with a manipulative boss or your own internal grief, his method is to remove the story and look only at the facts on the ground.
So if War doesn't trust human social contracts, and he actively hacks the emotional narratives we use to manipulate each other, what does a business look like to him?
Now, this is a huge pivot.
Right. If he scales up this absolute zero tolerance policy for DS, how do you actually organize human labor?
This is where we move from social hacking to systemic design. War outlines an incredibly detailed blueprint for what he calls the decentralized AI manager.
Sounds intense.
And it is radical departure from anything resembling a traditional corporate hierarchy.
We're talking about a workplace structure governed entirely without human managers. No supervisors, no directors, no VPs of synergy.
Just code.
The entire system is managed by an AI that is specifically designed to leverage human psychology specifically, the primal drivers of pride and shame.
Traditional management relies on human oversight, which is inherently flawed. Humans have biases, they play favorites, they get tired.
They get tricked.
Exactly. They can be manipulated by a clever but lazy employee.
Like the coworker who tried to blame the team for their broken project. A human boss might fall for that because they don't want to deal with the conflict.
Right.
Whereas AI wouldn't care. Let's break down the architecture of the system because the mechanics are fascinating. Component number one is what he calls the dynamic mesh network.
This is the foundational infrastructure. In a traditional company, you have a central server, a central database, a central authority.
Like a hub and spoke.
Right. In War's system, there is no central hub holding all the power or information. Instead, every single employee and every AI node acts as a point in a vast spider web.
The documentation describes it as constantly sending a ping, like a submarine radar, but across a network of employees.
Yes, the network is continuously pinging itself. It is constantly cross-checking the status, the stability, and the quality of work happening at every other node in the web.
So it's essentially like a blockchain for workplace accountability. But practically speaking, why does it need to be a mesh network? Why not just have one really smart AI boss on a main computer?
Because it ensures 100% transparency and immutability.
Okay.
In a traditional corporate database, if you have high enough clearance, or if you just happen to be friends with the IT guy, you could theoretically go into the back end and erase a bad track record or manipulate a performance review.
You can hide your mistakes.
Exactly. But in Wur's dynamic mesh network, you cannot hack the back end because there is no back end.
Right.
The data is distributed across every node. If you tried to alter your own history of delivering late work, the entire network would immediately detect the anomaly because your node would no longer match the memory of the rest of the web.
The ping would fail.
The ping would fail. You literally cannot hide from your own track record.
Which brings us to the most aggressive part of this design. Component 2, the upstream guardrail. This is designed specifically to catch the phonies, as War calls them.
This is where Wur's understanding of human psychology really shines through the technology.
Let's talk about how this actually functions because it blew my mind.
Go for it.
In most jobs, you get assigned a task, you go away for a week, you do the work, and you submit it to your boss. If it's terrible, your boss yells at you, but you still got paid for that week of making garbage.
You basically wasted company time.
Right. Worst system doesn't wait for the final product. The AI monitors the exact moment an employee submits a draft, or even just the initial methodology during the ideation phase.
It analyzes the logic of the approach before the heavy lifting even begins.
But how does an AI actually judge lazy logic in an ideation phase? Is it tracking my keystrokes? How does a computer know I'm throwing spaghetti at the wall?
It's not about tracking keystrokes, it's about structural coherence.
What does that mean?
The AI is constantly comparing your proposed methodology against massive historical data sets of successful and failed projects. It looks for logical leaps, missing variables, or generic, unquantifiable goals.
Oh, I see.
If your proposal lacks rigor, or if it relies on assumptions that the system knows are statistically false, the AI flags it.
And it rejects it instantly before any actual work begins.
Think about the psychological impact of that. In a normal setting, if a boss rejects your work, you can tell yourself a story to protect your ego. Oh, the boss just doesn't get my vision, or the boss is intimidated by my ideas.
Or they're just in a bad mood today.
Exactly. You can always blame the human element. You could say it's subjective.
Precisely. But you cannot argue with a purely logical, decentralized AI that just instantly rejected your thought process based on pure data.
No, you really can't.
The system is intentionally designed to trigger an immediate sense of human shame.
It's a digital slap on the wrist.
It forces the worker to take absolute responsibility from step one. The machine essentially says, I know you were half-assing this, and I won't even let you start until you fix your attitude. That is terrifying.
It removes the buffer of human politeness, which feeds directly into components 3 and 4, the dynamic reputation score, and the smart priority matrix.
Right. So in this company, you don't have a manager doing a sit-down annual review where you try to justify your existence.
Those are the worst.
They really are. Instead, employees get a constantly updating grade. And this grade is based on double-blind peer revise of their actual output.
The double-blind aspect is crucial to the integrity of the system. The reviewer doesn't know whose work they're grading, and the creator doesn't know who is grading them.
So it's totally neutral.
It completely eliminates workplace politics. It eliminates favoritism. It eliminates bias based on gender, race, age, or personality. You are judged entirely on the merit of the work.
It's like an Uber driver rating, but for corporate survival. And this grade dictates your entire reality in this company.
It really does.
If you maintain a high grade, the AI unlocks access to priority 1 tasks. These are the complex, critical, high-paying jobs. The AI sends an alert across the network, pulling the highest graded people to tackle the biggest problems for the biggest rewards.
But if you submit sloppy work, or if your peers consistently grade your output poorly, your score plummets.
And then what?
When your score drops, the AI algorithm restricts your access. You are locked out of the good work. You are relegated to priority 2 tasks.
Quick wins, as they are called.
Yeah.
Basically, the low-level, tedious, repetitive tasks that need to get done but don't require high-level execution.
Yep.
If you mess up the big stuff, you are stuck in the digital mailroom until you grind your score back up.
And again, this raises an important question about accountability. If your grade falls in Ward's system, what do?
You just have to deal with it.
You have no human boss to complain to. You can't go cry in a manager's office and promise to do better. You can't manipulate an HR representative.
You can't say the AI has it out for me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are forced into a state of 100% self-accountability. You are left with no choice but to say, serves me right.
Wow.
The system strips away every single excuse, leaving only your own performance staring back at you.
It is a ruthless meritocracy. But in a weird way, it's fundamentally fair because it is completely blind to everything except the work. Whereas AI system relies entirely on stripping away our human biases, our excuses, and our narratives.
It demands an incredibly high level of objective detachment from the people operating within it. You have to remove your ego from the equation.
So if War doesn't trust human emotion to run a business, how does he expect humans to navigate their own lives? How does a ruthlessly logical mind handle messy existential dread?
That's the million-dollar question.
That's what I wanted to know next, and it leads us perfectly into his existential Q&A.
This is where we see Wur pushing the boundaries of his own philosophy. People bring him these heavy moral and philosophical dilemmas, and he consistently refuses to accept the societal cliches we usually use to answer them.
Let's start with how he redefines success and value. The scenario here is a classic quarter-life crisis.
We've all been there.
Right. A young person in their mid-20s comes to War. They are highly capable, good at many things, but they are totally paralyzed by having too many choices.
The paradox of choice.
They say, I'm terrified of choosing the wrong path and wasting my life. Everyone else is moving forward and I'm stuck.
The usual advice here is follow your passion or just pick something and commit, which honestly just adds more pressure to an already paralyzed mind.
It really does.
It implies that inactivity is failure.
War's advice is the exact opposite. He says, if you have too many choices and you don't know what to do, just stand still.
Just stand still.
Yes. He says, if you are truly good at everything, let the opportunities come to you. Don't run aimlessly just because you feel like you should be moving.
That's fascinating.
It's like being stuck in a massive traffic roundabout.
Right.
Eventually, you just need to pull over. You don't keep driving in circles, burning gas just to feel like you're making progress. He compares it to a high-level player in a video game. A top-tier player doesn't run around the map randomly looking for fights. They stand their ground, display their skills, and let the quests and the challenges come to them. He tells the person, I don't know what to choose either, so just stand there and look cool until it becomes obvious.
It is a profound reframing of inactivity. Society views standing still as falling behind. War views it as a strategic conservation of energy.
It takes all the pressure off.
It removes the panic from the crisis.
Yeah.
You aren't failing to move. You are actively choosing to wait for the right signal.
And he applies this same reframing to the concept of ambition. There is a scenario where a person is considering giving up a high-powered career and big ambitions to move back to their hometown to care for their aging parents.
A very tough choice.
Society and modern hustle culture would likely call this giving up your future or settling.
It's framed as a tragic sacrifice of potential. The assumption is that maximum career achievement is the highest possible good.
But War frames it beautifully, and honestly, this part really hit me. He says to this person, you aren't losing a future. You're simply choosing not to climb a mountain alone, just so you can sit at the top and drink by yourself while the people you love pass away at the bottom.
That is a stunning metaphor.
Isn't it? He asks, what is the point of that isolated victory? If you know you're going to spend the last 30 years of your life alone anyway, why trade the precious, limited time you have right now with your parents for a view from a lonely peak?
He is dismantling the assumption that professional upward mobility is the ultimate metric of a successful life.
Yes.
He is calculating the emotional return on investment and deciding that the climb simply isn't worth the isolation. He's applying logic to emotion in a way that actually validates the emotion.
He tackles absolute morality with that same unyielding logic. And this brings us to one of the most famous thought experiments of all time, the kill baby Hitler time travel dilemma.
Yes. The classic test of utilitarianism versus deontological ethics.
It's a heavy one.
Do you commit a horrific act, murdering an innocent infant, to prevent the future suffering of millions? It forces you to weigh the morality of an action against its eventual outcome.
People argue this in dorm rooms for hours. But War refuses the binary entirely. He looks at the premise and says, if I have a time machine, why are my only options do nothing or murder a baby?
Fair point.
He says he wouldn't kill the baby. He would use the time machine to investigate. He would find the exact source of the trauma, the specific environmental and psychological conditions that warped that child into a monster, and he would fix that.
He treats the dictator not as an inherently evil entity that just popped into existence, but as a product of specific inputs.
Like a system.
Exactly. If you change the inputs early enough, you change the output. He even suggests that by fixing the trauma, that same massive drive and capability could potentially be redirected to turn him into a great leader for good.
It's engineering applied to morality. You don't throw the whole machine away, you fix the bug in the code before the system crashes.
Now, speaking of leaders, War is presented with another major dilemma regarding leadership and morality. And I want to pause here and be very clear with you listening. We are exploring War's philosophical thought experiment on pragmatism versus idealism here.
Right.
We are absolutely not taking a political stance or endorsing any specific real-world system or politician. This is purely an exercise in examining how War processes complex variables.
Absolutely. Think of this purely as a logic puzzle, folks. The dilemma presented to him is this. You must choose between two leaders for a country or a company. Leader A is corrupt, self-serving, but highly competent.
Okay.
Under Leader A, the economy booms, people have food, the infrastructure works, and the standard of living rises, even though everyone knows the leader is skimming off the top and enriching their friends.
Got it.
Then you have Leader B. Leader B is genuinely good, entirely honest, completely moral, but entirely incompetent. Under Leader B, the system falls apart, the supply chains break, and people suffer through sheer mismanagement, even though the leader's heart is in the right place. Who do you choose?
It is the ultimate clash between intent and outcome. Do you value the moral purity of the leader or the material well-being of the system?
And true to form, War pragmatically chooses the competent, corrupt leader. His reasoning is brutal but clear. He says you choose the competent one because they actually get the machine running. People need to eat before they can worry about ethics.
And what about the corruption?
As for their corruption, he says you just put a leash on them.
It's an incredibly cynical yet functional view of governance. He separates the moral character of the person from the utility of their skill set.
Yeah.
He believes it is easier to build systems, laws, and guardrails to contain the greed of a competent person than it is to build systems that compensate for the fundamental incompetence of a good person.
Yeah.
You can regulate greed. You cannot regulate incompetence.
He applies the same separation of act and context to the classic scenario of stealing to feed a starving child. Yeah. If a man steals bread to save a child's life, is the act wrong?
Again, he refuses to blend the categories. He doesn't let emotion cloud the definition of the act.
Right.
He says, stealing is a crime against the law. That is a factual statement. But finding food to save a starving child is morally right. That is also a factual statement.
So they can both be true.
The two exist simultaneously. You break the law and you do the right thing.
He doesn't try to make the stealing legal in his mind, and he doesn't let the law make the saving of the child immoral. He just accepts both truths. If you are the judge, you punish the man for stealing, and you praise him for saving the child.
It requires such a detached, clear-eyed view of reality.
And he pushes this detachment even further when asked about identity and the future.
The sci-fi hypotheticals. These are always illuminating because they strip away the physical body entirely.
Someone asks him, if your mind, your consciousness, is transferred perfectly into a robotic body, is it still you? Or is it just a copy? Or says, yes, it's absolutely still him.
His reasoning here is vital for understanding his worldview. Most people tie their identity to their physical form, their face, or their specific memories. Like, I am me because I remember being me yesterday.
But War says memory isn't the core of identity. Even if all your memories were wiped right now, he argues you're still fundamentally you because your soul, Or more specifically, your capacity to process thoughts, your core operating system, remains the same.
The hardware might change, but the processor architecture is still uniquely yours.
The data files might be deleted, but yeah, the processing is the same.
He strips identity down to the barest mechanism of awareness and processing. You aren't your past. You're simply the mechanism that experiences the present.
Which leads perfectly into the simulation theory question.
Oh, this one is great.
If we found out tomorrow, 100% confirmed, that the entire universe is just a computer simulation, does it matter?
For most people, that revelation would cause a complete collapse of meaning. Nihilism would take over. Why go to work? Why build relationships if it's all just lines of code running on some alien hard drive?
I'll be honest, if I found out it was a simulation, I'd have a complete existential meltdown. I mean, my logical brain says, well, I still have to pay simulated rent to avoid simulated eviction, but my heart would be screaming that nothing matters.
Right. It feels pointless.
But War says, no, it doesn't matter at all. He says if it's a simulation, just play your role. Keep doing what you're doing.
He views it as just a change in the underlying substrate of reality. Whether the universe is made of atoms or pixels, your experience of it is exactly the same.
That requires an incredible, almost superhuman level of mental detachment from your own ego and your own narrative. To just accept that your entire life is a program, and to just keep chopping wood and carrying water anyway.
But that level of detachment, that ability to view life as a series of purely causal inputs and outputs, devoid of emotional narrative. This isn't just a modern tech bro AI developer mindset.
No, it's not.
Ford didn't invent this way of looking at the world.
No, he really didn't.
It perfectly mirrors one of the oldest, most complex, and most rigorous philosophical systems in human history. And that connects everything we've talked about to the final and most profound concept in Wur's worldview.
This is where everything clicks together. We're moving from Wur's street-smart advice, past his AI corporate structure, straight down into the ancient underlying code of the universe, the Mahapatthana.
The 24 conditions of existence.
Before we throw all 24 conditions at you, let's slow down and define what we are actually talking about. What exactly is the Mahapatthana? The writings describe it as a Mahapatthana, a great book from the Buddhist Tripitaka.
Yes, it's considered the most profound and complex part of the Abhidhamma, which is the higher analytical teaching of the Buddha.
Okay.
But you absolutely do not need to be a Buddhist scholar to grasp its core concept. The central idea is that the Mahapatthana describes Paramatha-Dhamma, the absolute truth.
Okay, I need clarification on that. How is absolute truth different from the truth I experience every day? Like, it is a truth that I am sitting in a chair holding a microphone. How does absolute truth differ from that?
What you are describing is conventional truth. It's true based on human language and perception. We agree to call it a chair.
Right.
But if you zoom in close enough, there is no chair. There are only atoms, forces, and empty space interacting with each other. Paramatha-Dhamma, absolute truth, is what remains when you strip away all concepts, all names, all human narratives. It is the pure physics of reality.
The writings use this incredible imagery to explain how absolute this framework is. They say even if the entire universe, all the planets, the galaxies, the solar systems are completely destroyed by fire, water, or wind, the Mahapatthana still remains.
Because it is not a physical thing that can be burned or blown away. It is the pure underlying state of cause and effect.
It's the rules themselves.
Exactly. It is the engine behind the law of karma. It explains how actions in one life can echo into another, because every action, every thought, every physical element is just a condition interacting with other conditions, endlessly rippling outward forever.
The Mahapatthana breaks down this massive, infinite web of cause and effect into 24 specific types of conditions, or pakayas.
The building blocks.
It is the ultimate categorization of how things interact. The text gives us some brilliant, concrete analogies to unpack these conditions, and I want to spend some real time exploring them, because this is where Wur's modern hacking maps perfectly onto ancient wisdom. Let's start with the first condition, Hetu, or the root condition.
This is the foundational cause. It is the core requirement for a specific thing to exist. The text compares it to a seed needing water and soil to grow, or a flame needing fuel to burn.
Right. No fuel, no fire.
Without the root condition, the result cannot exist. If you cut off the oxygen, the fire dies, no matter how hot it was.
So, in Wur's world, if you want to stop the toxic coworker from taking credit for your work in a meeting, You have to look for the hetu, the root condition.
Yes.
The root condition isn't the coworker's personality. The root condition is the unstructured format of the meeting that allows them to speak out of turn. If you change the meeting structure, if you cut off the fuel, they have no oxygen to steal your credit.
Exactly. You're manipulating the root condition.
Yeah.
Then we have Anantara and Samanantara, which deal with proximity and contiguity. This is the concept of continuous, seamless replacement.
The text uses biology for this one, right?
Yeah.
Think about the cells in your body. Cells are constantly dying and being replaced by new cells, millions of times a second. It happens so seamlessly that we stay alive and feel like one continuous, unchanging being.
It applies to the mind, too. The old mind or the old state of consciousness dies, and the new mind arises instantly to take its place. There's no gap between them.
Just constant flow.
This explains the flow of consciousness. You are not the exact same person you were a second ago because conditions have slightly shifted.
It's like a flipbook animation. If you look at a flipbook, it looks like a continuous moving image, but it's actually hundreds of individual static frames replacing each other instantly.
That's a great way to visualize it.
Which perfectly explains War's answer about identity and the robot body when he said it doesn't matter if you lose your memories because your processing mechanism is still running. He is literally describing Anantara, the continuous arising of new states based on the immediately preceding state. The flipbook is still flipping.
That's a perfect connection. Now, consider asavana, the condition of repetition.
This one makes so much sense for human behavior and psychology. The analogy given is muscle memory or habit. When you do something repeatedly, it carves a path in your mind. Much like water flowing repeatedly over a patch of earth will eventually carve a deep riverbed.
Once that riverbed is carved, water will naturally flow there with almost no resistance. It becomes the default path. This is why breaking a bad habit or changing a toxic social dynamic is so incredibly hard. You are trying to force water to flow out of a deep canyon and back onto flatland.
Think about the algorithm on your TikTok or Instagram feed. If you linger on one toxic, rage-bait video, the system registers that engagement. It carves a trench, and it just keeps feeding you more of it until you are trapped in that loop. The repetition reinforces the condition.
Exactly.
When War tells the person to ignore the 11 p.m. text from the boss, he is actively trying to interrupt asavana. He is refusing to let the water carve that specific riverbed of expected weekend availability. He is damming the river before it gets deep.
And then there is jnana, the condition of focus or absorption.
This is about gathering scattered, diffuse energy and concentrating it into a single, intensely powerful point. The text uses the analogy of a magnifying glass.
Right, the sun and the leaves.
Sunlight hitting a pile of dry leaves on its own will just warm them up. But if you put a magnifying glass between the sun and the leaves, focusing all that scattered light into one tiny dot, it will start a fire.
The concentration creates entirely new properties. In Buddhist terms, this intense mental focus can create special abilities or heightened states of awareness.
Wow.
In practical everyday terms, it's exactly what War recognized in the friend who failed the exam after 6 months of intense studying. The exam was a failure, but the friend successfully harnessed jnana. They proved they could focus the sunlight. That capacity, that magnifying glass, remains in their possession even if that specific pile of leaves didn't catch fire.
Let's look at one more pair of conditions because I think they are absolutely crucial for understanding how we're supposed to interact with difficult people in our lives. Sampayutta versus vipayutta, association versus dissociation.
These conditions describe the different ways things can coexist in the same space. Sampayutta is an inseparable mixture.
The texts describe it like mixing milk and honey or blending spices into a curry. Once they are mixed, you cannot pull the honey back out of the milk. They have become one unified, inseparable thing.
But vipayutta is entirely different. It means coexisting, being in the exact same environment, but remaining fundamentally separate in your nature.
The analogy here is so beautiful. It's like a drop of water sitting on a lotus leaf. The water is resting right on top of the leaf, but because of the surface tension, it doesn't soak in. Or like oil and water in a glass. They touch, they share space, but they do not mix.
If we pull back and look at War's entire philosophy, from dealing with bad friends to working under a corrupt leader, he is constantly advocating for psychological vipayutta.
Yes. Think about that coworker you have to sit next to tomorrow who drives you crazy. Society and our own anxiety tells us to blend with it, to let their bad moods soak into us like milk and honey.
Which is exhausting.
We're saying you don't need to build a massive wall, you just need to change your surface tension. be the lotus leaf. You have to exist in the same environment as the toxic coworker, but you do not have to absorb their toxicity. You remain fundamentally separate.
It's the ultimate defense mechanism against a chaotic world.
Okay, let's tie this all the way back to practical career advice. When Ward tells a junior employee to stop agonizing over a boss who keeps holding them back and instead advises them to just bypass the boss entirely and post their work online in a public portfolio to create a new opportunity, he is literally hacking the Mahapatthana.
He is manipulating specific conditions. He is manipulating what the framework calls the aramana, the stimuli or object condition, and the nisaya, the dependence condition.
Break that down for us.
The employee feels stuck because they are depending, that's nisaya, on the toxic boss for career advancement. The boss is the only path forward.
Right.
Ward tells the employee to introduce a completely new stimulus, the aramana, which is the online portfolio. By introducing a new object for the world to interact with, he creates an entirely new chain of cause and effect. He's abandoning the blocked riverbed and building a new one.
And if we look at Wur's blueprint for the decentralized AI manager, it is essentially an artificial technological manifestation of Anyamanya, the condition of mutuality.
Anyamanya describes an interconnected ecosystem, a system where every single part fundamentally relies on the other to exist.
Like nature.
Exactly. The classic analogy is a forest. The trees provide food and shelter for the animals, and the animals provide fertilizer and seed dispersal for the trees. You cannot separate one from the other without collapsing the entire system.
Wur's dynamic mesh network, where every single employee and AI node constantly pings and relies on every other node for truth, stability, and reputation scoring, is a digital forest. It's a perfect application of Anyamanya. The system only works because everything depends on everything else.
There's one final detail in the Mahapatthana that I think ties this entire deep dive together, and it offers the ultimate perspective shift. In all these 24 conditions, covering every possible state of existence in the entire universe, there is no condition for permanence.
Wow, wait, really? Out of 24 absolute laws, permanence isn't one of them?
No.
Yeah.
There is no condition that dictates that a thing will stay exactly as it is forever. The closest it gets is the 23rd condition called avigata, which translates to non-disappearance.
Non-disappearance. Not permanent, just not gone yet.
Precisely. The analogy used is a leaf still clinging to a tree in late autumn. It is currently in a state of avigata. It hasn't disappeared yet. It is still hanging on. But it is fundamentally temporary. A strong wind will come, and it will inevitably fall, entering the 24th state, vigata, or disappearance.
That is heavy. But honestly, it's also incredibly liberating. It means every single thing we stress about, every problem, every toxic boss, every financial crisis is just a leaf in a state of avigata. It's just not gone yet.
Which brings us all the way back to Wur's street-smart stoicism. Why let a text at 11 p.m. ruin your weekend when the text, the boss, and the job itself are fundamentally temporary conditions? Why cling to the anger over the freeloader friend when the entire interaction is just a passing configuration of causes and effects?
What an incredible journey we've been on today. We have gone from dealing with friends who fake a broken banking app to avoid paying for sushi, to designing a bossless, shame-driven AI corporate utopia, all the way down to understanding the 24 indestructible conditions of the universe that will outlast the stars themselves.
This raises an important question for you listening to this right now. Think about the things that are weighing you down today.
Yeah.
The emails you are dreading, the conversations you are avoiding. How much of your current stress is just a temporary condition? If you look at your life through the grand, ancient lens of the Mahapatthana, or even just through Wur's brutally honest, street-smart lens, what bugs in your own social contract do you need to hack? Where are you letting the water soak in instead of rolling off the lotus leaf?
To close this out, I want to leave you with a final thought drawn from the very end of Wur's Q&A sessions. It's the ultimate mic drop moment. Wur was asked if you could ask one ultimate question to the universe and get a 100% true answer, what would it be?
A profound question in itself. What is the one thing you really want to know?
And Wur said his question would be, are we all from the exact same source?
It's the logical endpoint of everything we've discussed today.
I want you to really mull on this as you go about the rest of your day. If the Mahapatthana is true, and absolutely everything is just an endless interconnected web of causes and conditions, then the person you are so mad at right now, that coworker who took your credit, that friend who won't pay you back, they are just a different set of conditions. In another life, with slightly different inputs, slightly different traumas, slightly different hetu, that person could have been you.
If we all stem from the exact same source, simply expressing is different temporary conditions bouncing off one another.
Are you just fighting ourselves? When you are sitting there, paralyzed by that mundane annoyance in the group chat, maybe you aren't just dealing with a bad coworker. Maybe you're just looking at a mirror, reflecting a different temporary branch of the universe back at you. Just something to think about the next time your phone pings at 11 p.m.